Alright guys, Scrappy here and I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. OpTic Merc is now official. Shotzzy on stream last night revealing exactly how this all went down behind the scenes and his first impressions of his new teammate, and the impressions are what you might have expected. Scrums apparently have been going rather well with Merc in the team over the last day or so, but how do we get to this point? What happened behind the scenes to lead us to this decision, especially with Octane revealing that there were delays behind the scenes and those delays were not caused by contractual issues with Toronto Ultra. So what's happening behind the scenes? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. We're just going to dive straight in on the 28th of April. Shotzzy said, chat, we're not switching, what are you talking about? The very next day, according to Shotzzy, that's when he started to realise, actually, hang on a second here, there might be an opportunity to make a change happen. So that was quite a few days ago now, and it's been roughly a week since those discussions were started to the point we are today when they've now made a change. So what was causing the delays? I mean, and also, it was pretty good, at least from the OpTic side. None of this really leaked at all until pretty much the last minute when OpTic were pretty much ready to announce it, right, in terms of the deal getting done. The 3rd of May, they'd stuck with Skyz. It looked like it was going well, but, you know, unfortunately, Skyz probably didn't realise it then, but he was already out of the picture at that point, more than likely, and they had already effectively made the call, potentially anyway, before that series. At least some people agreed with that decision at the time that Skyz would go, Mercules would come in, even though they had the good result there. Look, one great series, is that enough to detract from what has been a limited ceiling? But as we kind of mentioned yesterday, in some respects it makes a bit of sense now because OpTic have a nice cushion in the World Championship race. They're 40 points ahead of Rocker, they're 40 points ahead of Cloud9, so they should be fine on that front. Now maybe if it was even closer, they might have thought, well, you know, we might really need a change to try and catalyse something, but I think the fact that they actually have a bit of a gap means they can afford to take a bit of risk. Maybe they could regress a little bit, but I kind of doubt that. I think Mercules just makes a lot of sense, certainly for the longer term. The Mercules Dashy combination, just as an AR combo, makes more sense than the situation with Skyz. And also fundamentally, it's more ambitious, right? They're bringing in a player who showed out very well at the most recent tournament and trying to increase their ceiling. I think the ceiling with Skyz, I mean, the maximum they were ever going to get with Skyz was probably a championship Sunday, maybe top 3. I don't think realistically, even if they all played their best, they were ever really going to get much further than that. So this is a change that who knows Mercules' ceiling, we're just not really sure as of yet. He's played one tournament, but it was officially confirmed last night by OpTic that Mercules is in. He sits down and he says, I'm just here to play some COD. And it's honestly an amazing story for this kid because he only came into the scene. Look, he's been around a while. He's played COD since like BO4. He's been somewhat notable. But in terms of playing properly, like actually competing in challenges and stuff, he's only really been around 12 months or so. And, well, here we are 12 months later, and he's joining the biggest organisation in COD. So to confirm it as well that Skyz is actually going to be benched rather than dropped. So this is a little bit of a key differentiating factor. I think the main reason behind this, I would imagine, is because if you drop a player, you have to pay them 2 months of salary anyway. So you might as well just bench him, right? Like, that's kind of my read on it, is that Skyz, they might as well put him to the bench because in 2 months' time, it's effectively going to be the World Cup anyway. So they may as well just keep him around because if they drop him, they've still got to pay him 2 months' salary. So they might as well keep him on the bench. That's, I think that's the rules anyway. Maybe the OpTic contract is different and therefore that doesn't apply and therefore they've just decided to keep him around. And look, who knows? Doesn't work out with Mercules. You know, maybe Skyz could still come back in at some point, but I very much doubt it. And it's nice for Skyz at least to still be on OpTic for a couple of months. Therefore, he can stream, you know, get some of the OpTic juice, as Mercules was most certainly doing last night. We'll look at Skyz's reaction to this and where he might go next later on today. But yes, it's only a couple of days away now when we will see Mercules in action for OpTic versus the Boston Breach. So how do we get to this point? This is the image of Mercules grinding with the team. Of course, scrims have been going down. There's some content pieces going down as well. I think there was, let me just find it real quick. I put it a little bit later on, but here we go. We've got Mercules versus Big OpTic Hex on the right-hand side. So guess this is where that picture was from on this side. Maybe not actually, because, you know, the wall isn't behind him. He's got Scum behind him in this one. But whatever. Like, this is obviously a bit of content they're working on here. We got Zin, Nick Maniac, Hitch, Pomage, of course, and Scumpy behind him, and they're playing a little 1v1. Thought that was pretty cool. call. First to 5, who won this 1v1, what was the score? So nice to see him already getting integrated, it seems, into the team. I think it's going to be a great kid for the team. And he turned the stream on last night, was absolutely raking in the subs, of course. And look, if you're Mercules and the opportunity was there, okay, go to Cloud9, maybe stay on Toronto's bench or wait for a potential opportunity on OpTic, or even the Falcons was not an impossibility. I wouldn't be surprised that if OpTic didn't do this now, Falcons at some point come along and say, all right, yeah, we probably need to make this happen. But yeah, Merc revealed on stream pretty much this time last year, he was properly taking it serious as a competitor. And Mock also revealed, which I don't know if this is fully true, but it's pretty remarkable if it is true, that last year, he didn't even know when he first started competing properly. Now, he has played like Search and Destroy and stuff since like Black Ops 4. So, you know, he is semi-notable. But in Hardpoint, it seems like he's very, very new to the mode. And last year, he didn't even know that the spawns that you get are dependent on the different hills. He obviously figured that out relatively quickly, and now he's in OpTic Gaming, right? So it doesn't get much of a crazier career arc than that. There was a bit of talk as well because Merc had some opportunities even before. I mean, he came into competing properly in challenges, and within just a couple of months he was already noticed as like, okay, this guy is pretty talented, maybe there's something here, because he definitely trialed last year with the Ravens. Brian Sate even says it and says pretty sure the trial was just with us, right? Now of course he trialed for Ravens. Damn, they didn't sign him, right? So they got Beans instead, so that kind of Beans-Mercules rivalry, if you want to call it that, runs kind of deep. But still, obviously, in hindsight, maybe Ravens thought they could have made a different call because now they no longer have Beans nor Mercules, but they put Vivid on the flex, which, you know, never really made all that much sense. But anyway, Alex .zip from Rocker said that it actually wasn't them either. So there might have been another team that he was trialing with last year. I think there was, but who it was, I'm not 100% sure. Now, Toronto were talking about Mercules the other day. Beans, I thought, was pretty funny because he was in there saying, oh yeah, like, yeah, good player, but better team, right? Like, you put anyone on that team and they'd still be frying. Thankfully, Beans no longer has to worry about Mercules threatening him from the sidelines, but of course, he might have to worry about him in the server if Toronto and OpTic have a nice rivalry from now to the end of the year. So a couple of things to mention here. How do we get to this point? How did it transpire that Mercules was not in the picture? Now he was in the picture, but he had offers elsewhere, and then maybe he was going to consider those offers. This is even Methods revealing a tweet to TJ back in October, where he says, look, Mercules is the man to get. And, I mean, could you imagine if Ravens did that right? Because Vivid, now he's gone, and I think Vivid's a solid player, but he never made much sense in the flex role, let's be real. A slasher, Mercules, TJ, and Gwinn team sounds pretty damn nice to me. But of course, that's why Zinni decided to take some credit for it at the timeline. And Zinni was also talking about it on stream, exactly how all of this went down, and that he believes that the ceiling definitely increases with Mercules on the roster. So how exactly did we get to this point? I know that Ina Dog, if you guys are followers of the Dope Joke Show, you'll certainly know that name. She was trying to ensure that Mercules did not, let's say, rush into signing another contract elsewhere. Now, who knows exactly what was going on in Merc's head over the last couple of weeks, but the Cloud9 offer was there, the Toronto bench offer was probably there as well, and, you know, Mercules was not exactly sure if the OpTic thing was going to come along, but he did hold off making his decision. And also to Zinni's credit, because he was obviously talking last night about how he's pretty happy with this change, I don't think from Zinni these were just words. I think he actually did some things to help this happen and, you know, let's say get the ball rolling and make it clear to Mercules that, hey, look, this OpTic offer might be on the table, so, you know, let's just try and hold off signing anything else. So there was a few moving parts behind the scenes over the last week or so to actually make this whole thing happen. And yeah, Mercules in the end, advised by whoever, made the right calls and didn't sign anything else yet until OpTic actually decided, yes, we will do this in the end. Now, why the delay though? Because Shotzzy's about to say, we'll see it in a second, that last week, I mean, over a week ago now, they started to have these discussions, and yet there were still questions and nobody had really heard about it, and there were clearly some sort of a delay. Now, Octane revealed that there was some behind the scenes, let's say, politics that delayed it, and he went on to say shortly afterwards that this was not, you know, contractual related with Ultra. I don't think he really had anything with Ultra. The contract would have been with Omit, I think, still. So maybe there was some discussion between Raffi and Hex about what this looked like. Maybe that was the delay. But there was also other rumors about the delay that we'll get into after I share these clips.
Listen, bro, move is good. It was a good move for OpTic. It didn't happen sooner because there's some fucking behind the scenes shit that you guys just probably won't know about, but It would have happened sooner if that shit didn't happen. That is all you need to know. They still made the move when they could have made the move. So the roster mania is not done, man. Hey, Ron. What's up, buddy? Must have had to wait for Ultra to deal to be up for the first fields to be over. There was some other reasoning. I'm not getting into it, but that was not why. I figured it out. I had my sources come through for me.
Fuck me, dude. It always backfires. I swear to God. Always backfires, man. I'm never. All right. Roster wise, I'm not saying shit ever again. You're not gonna hear roster shit from me. No bullshit. But no. Okay. Before anything even, just to clear some shit up, okay? When I said what I said, we were not changing. Okay? The very next day, or was that Monday? On Wednesday, shit started to, you know. On Wednesday, shit was getting active. I'm not gonna go in depth. I'm not gonna lie. There's no point in me going in depth. But, yeah. Is the kid good? Bro, Merc is literally him. After playing with him, bro, he is him. I ain't gonna lie. Not even on some glacier.
So Ronnie mentioned it on stream last night that Shotzzy wanted to change, others did not. And, you know, this seems to be the crux of the matter here, potentially, that the reason why there was some delay in signing Mercules was that, let's say, Shotzzy's teammates were not so convinced it was the right idea. Shotzzy, after the major, was convinced that getting Merc was the plan. That seems to be the theory anyway, but maybe there was someone who wasn't so convinced this was the right idea. I mean, and who else could that realistically be on the roster? Skyz, he's not going to make the decision, is he? He's the one on the chopping block. You know, what would Karma think? What would JP think? But also, really, it's about the players, right? Like, what would Huke think? Hypothetically, my opinion is, would Huke really care? Like, Huke's a pretty chill guy, right? Actually, I think Huke's personality will mesh very well with Mercules. I think in some respects they seem kind of similar characters in terms of how chill they are in almost all circumstances. I don't imagine Huke is putting up too much of a fight. If Shotzzy tells him, look, we're thinking of getting Merc in the Skyz, I think Huke would probably be the character to say, sounds, no issues there. Let's do what you want to do. So the question really, most people are theorizing that maybe Dashy wasn't so convinced. Dashy liked Caesar, you know, they get along pretty well. Maybe he felt like that was a good AR combination. And look, I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe there were contractual related stuff, but Octane says, look, it wasn't really that. There were some other things. So the prevailing theory at the moment anyway is that Dashy wasn't so convinced that making this change was a good idea. But of course, it's pretty interesting, right? Because you'd have thought that if Dashy was pretty adamant that no, not so sure about Mercules, not even necessarily that he thought Skyz was the best, more so that even when they signed Ghosty a couple of years ago, as much success as they had, they didn't win anything, but they made a couple of grand finals, and they were so much better, like that helped them salvage their season. But Ghosty was, you know, he was raw, he was new. He wasn't necessarily the easiest to work with, right? So maybe there was a feeling that Dashy wasn't sure that bringing in another rookie kid was really the right idea. And what's interesting is if Dashy did, of course this is speculation, right? But if Dashy did have that opinion, then you'd have thought that the 3-0 win against the Surge would have been validation for them actually sticking it out. But no, at some point, a mind was changed somewhere. And, well, now he's on the roster. Dashy tweeted this out last night as well. So, of course, from the Dark Knight, this isn't the Here We Go scene. This is the one where he comes into the party and he says, what does he say at the start? Like, we are tonight's entertainment, and then he's walking up to Rachel here and says, hello, beautiful. So I don't know if that's what he's getting at, but, you know, talking about Mercules. But anyway, Dashy tweeted this out, so make of that what you will. Of course, it's like also semi a Batman reference, right, which is also Dashy's whole thing. So maybe there's a bit of that going on. Not really sure what he means about it. But I think the other point to mention, and certainly to touch on before we close the video, is what Shotzzy said on the roster and Mercules as an individual, right? Having played with him in scrims or whatever over the last couple of days, Shotzzy made it pretty clear that Merc is literally him. After playing with him, bro, he is him. So, you know, I'm sure OpTic fans are licking their lips at the prospect, but here we go again, baby. Shotzzy said a lot of things this year. Some of them have gone to plan, some of them haven't gone to plan. So OpTic fans will be hoping that this clip exists now and never again, and they never have to see this clip ever again, because if they do, it probably means that it's not worked out, and people are once again going to be sharing Shotzzy's opinion on the situation. So, you know, look, it's not maybe as far to say frying in scrims, but it's as far enough to say that in terms of their practice they've had so far, Mercules has looked like a real force and presumably more impactful than, well, Shotzzy believed that Skyz was. So very much into your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.